Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Women Thrive Monday Redo. I have with us Ben Anderson. Ben is with Gallagher, and he is the president in locally. And we're so fortunate to have him because Ben, I can honestly say, we have probably a handful of men that are involved in the chamber and that are incredibly supportive of women. And Ben is certainly one of our top supporters and reached out to me after one of our events and was just so excited to learn how to support and promote and advance women. So thank you, Ben, for being here. You are our first male interview on Women Thrive Monday, so no pressure, but you're doing such great things and your organization is doing such great things for women. So thanks for being with us today.
No, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Well, let's talk a little bit about, just your passion for women and for being an ally. It's so important for us to have both men and women at the table in our quest for changing the workforce cultures that exist today. And just wanted to hear a little bit more from you about how you came to be passionate about this and what you do for women on a daily basis.
Yeah, I guess historically, I'm passionate about this. I am. It's something that we talk about a lot in our team. We talk about with our recruiting. We're focused on it. It's an organizational thing, so it's not just our office here in Denver, but it's a national, global thing. I think where it probably originally came from is my mom, a single mother, raised me and my sister, worked a number of jobs. I saw how hard it was, but I think I was just raised to not see that difference. We all know they're different. Men and women are different, right? There's no surprise there.
Right.
But from a performance perspective, it's not. So the pay issues, the performance, the promotion issues, I never understood those, So even when I first got to this office, first thing I did was check, do we have pay equity, just to make sure? And we did. So it was great. And we talk about it and we're aware. But I think my mom was the biggest example of seeing what she went through and seeing the barriers that she faced. And then looking around and realizing, I have two daughters and I have a wife and I'm trying to build something. I want to make sure it's better. I want to leave it better than I found it. Mm-hmm. And there shouldn't be these hurdles. So I think that's where it first came from is if not me, then who, right? So I'm going to pick it up and I'm going to do what I can.
Right. Well, and I think, it's interesting that you have that perspective. And I know that a lot of men that really want to help women, they have similar scenarios, right? They watched their mothers struggle and they want a different world for their daughters and for their wife. Tell me, as a result of that, how does that manifest in your world now? How are you working to help support and advance women? Because I know it's hard, right? We talked about this in the past. We all have bias and it's unconscious bias for a reason, right? We're not aware of it. What are you doing as a result of, sort of dealing with bias and dealing with it at the top and helping women and men overcome it?
Yeah, well, I will say I'm fortunate at Gallagher as a company. This is a topic that we're focused on. And we recently just received the award, the Forbes Best Places to Work for Women.
No,
so it's not just a Denver, it's a cultural thing. And we have the Gallagher Way tenets that govern how we do business and we live those. And our office in Denver has received the Denver Business Journal Best Places to Work for 2 years running now. And so I have a team around me that believes in it. And I think the biggest is the accountability and the conversation. So when I sit with our recruiter and I tell them my goals, this is part of it. Do we have enough candidates from a gender diversity, but also from a racial diversity to allow a fair opportunity and good representation? There's statistics out there that I won't go into the detail of them, but if you don't have at least two diverse candidates in your pool, the odds of hiring a diverse candidate are about zero. So there has to be some intentionality around the process. We recently hired a client services lead, and I wanted to make sure. I was afraid of that unconscious bias. I knew most of the people that we were going to be interviewing, and the pool of candidates was predominantly male by a wide margin. And so I built a hiring committee to do the interviews that was national. It wasn't just here. And we set some ground rules. We had conversations. We looked for, put our skill gaps in and areas that we were looking. And then we also had to make the decision of, do we need performance right now or do we need potential? And if we find someone that's a great fit with the skills and everything that we need, that may not have all of the tools, can we build that?
Right.
And that's a really unique one because, if we look at this, it's kind of like the racial divide and we see the gender divide. There's more experience a lot of times. And so sometimes we have to understand, and I love this comment, people, oh, I've never been in leadership. I've never been in sales. And no one has until they had a chance to do it.
Right.
So someone's got to give them a chance. So, do you believe in your culture and your leadership enough that you can mentor, train, coach, and develop and build those resources to allow you to find the candidate that's the best fit and accomplish your diversity and inclusion goals?
Right.
And I'm thankful to have a company that supports that.
Yeah, and it's fascinating. We talked about this before. There was a Harvard Business Review article on, when job descriptions are written, oftentimes if there was, men in the role, forever before it was written, it's written in a way that appreciates the male skills, and so oftentimes when we're looking for those skills, right, it's presented to a woman and it's like, well, I don't have those. And we talked about, I wonder, when we're unraveling this and we're looking for skills in a particular role, how that might be able to be, looked at a little bit differently, because these are the skills that a male possesses in this role, but maybe a woman would, possess something a little bit different or would present itself differently. So I really appreciate you doing that, because if a woman's never been in the role, then how can we appreciate the skills that a woman would bring to that role? And it's fascinating to me. We could go on and on about it, but what I really want to talk to you about, first of all, is to congratulate Gallagher on the Forbes Award. That is huge, and especially in a male-dominated industry, to win that award, that's fantastic. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And then I just wanted to ask you, because these are also learning interviews for our members, a couple questions that we ask all of our interviewees. Can you tell us about a time personally or professionally or both when you persevered and how you came out of it?
Yeah, I would probably go back to early. My childhood was non-traditional. And so in the high school years, my mom decided she didn't really want me to live in the house. So I moved out and was homeless for a little while. And I traveled and worked with cycling teams. And my mom and I have a wonderful relationship. Like, that was a self-induced turbulence problem for me, not for my mom. She's amazing, and she fought for me through everything. And I was a challenge. But I think that gave me the perspective of, man, it can always be worse. And you get to choose your path. And you get to make a decision every day on the mindset. And that's a big one, the mindset. Because it goes to this too, the hiring, the recruiting. You have to have the mindset to do it. And so I think that was probably the biggest challenge that I've gone through is, figuring out in my life. But looking back too, this is a really important caveat. I had it easier, right? I was a white male. My life was a little easier. So that big challenge to overcome was a little easier for me, maybe a lot easier for me than it would be for some other people. So I have to acknowledge that and own that the challenge to me may not have been as big as I thought it was.
Well, but it is still so important, Ben, because, I don't oftentimes think we embrace and appreciate a leader's journey, right? And how that makes us uniquely qualified to lead the way that we lead. And I think that because of your journey and who you are as a leader, you're going to be more empathetic and more open to someone that had challenges along the way, which, truthfully, you're at the top of the food chain, certainly as a white male, right? Like, you have more opportunities. But I think that because you had that background and have grown and overcome, maybe that's exactly why you are more willing or wanting to help women, because you know what it's like to face adversity and you want to help people overcome it and get there. So had you not gone through that, I don't think that you'd be the same leader. And I always say that about myself too. I had a really challenging upbringing, but I tend to work well in organizations that need change or need turnaround. And I don't think that I would be this person without that. So that's a really great story. And I think we really we need to embrace people's individual journeys in order to overcome all of this, right? Because that's where it comes from, and it looks differently for all of us. So I appreciate you sharing that story. What is a mantra that you live by?
There's one simple one, and then one that comes up a lot that I think kind of speaks to what you just talked about. But the simplest one is it's just not that hard to be nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how much effort people put into not being nice when it's really easy to just be nice. And then to go back to a saying that I think about a lot that comes up is people are doing the best they can, right? And Brene Brown, I'll always mess up her name, Brene Brown. She talks about it in one of her books, I think it was Rising from the Ashes. And she talks about, people genuinely are trying to do the best they can. So if you look at it from that perspective and you give the people the benefit of the doubt, and it's not that hard to be nice, you're in a lot better spot to really see what's there and what that person is bringing to the table and what they can accomplish. And again, overcoming the diversity, like what are they facing? There's some big challenges out there. People are genuinely trying to do the best they can.
Yeah, it's true. I remember that mantra when I was waiting tables, and you have to be so nice when you're waiting tables, because if you're not, then you don't get a tip. And I remember oftentimes thinking that, when I was going in and just not being in that great of a mood. And then, with my first table, just like, it's not that hard to be nice, just be nice. And how even just thinking that puts you in a better mood. Right? It helps you overcome whatever it is that puts you in the bad mood in the first place. So it's a great mantra. Well, thank you for being with us today, Ben. Any last words for our members?
I think I would encourage two things. One is have the hard conversations. I can't tell you how thankful I am that some of the women on my team came and said to me, hey, am I being paid equal? And they raised those questions. Am I going to have the opportunity? Because they weren't sure. But those were scary conversations. But building that trust culture and having those conversations, don't be afraid to have them, because in some ways your male counterparts are naturally having some of those conversations that have more conflict in them. So maybe finding some mentors to practice those conversations and being willing to do that and step out on that. I think that's valuable, so that they know. And then the second, I think, to the members, the male members, hopefully there's some of those as well, like pick up the flag and help, because we are the predominant culture in this, and the predominant culture has to lead the change. As much as it sounds crappy to be in that position, it's the way it works. And so, like the studies, they talk about all the people that stand around and see an accident and no one does anything because there's more people. Don't let that happen. Step up and say, I'm going to be part of this change, and do something you can say, okay, I took a step forward, and be part of that.
Thank you, Ben. You're amazing. Thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate you, and congrats again on your award.
Thank you very much.